Episode 26. In the passage, psychologist Alia Crum shares a story from her time as a graduate student that illustrates an important lesson about stress. One night, Crum was feeling stressed and doubtful about finishing her research project. As she was working late in the basement, the department's IT technician unexpectedly poked his head in and said, "Just another cold, dark night on the side of Everest." Then he left. Crum didn't think much of the comment at the time. But a couple weeks later, as she was lying awake in bed, it came back to her. She realized that the technician's words held profound wisdom. When you're climbing a mountain like Everest, you expect there to be difficult, unpleasant moments, times when you're cold, tired, and struggling in the darkness. That's just part of taking on a huge challenge. But a mountain climber doesn't view those hardships as problems to avoid. They are simply the reality of pursuing something important and meaningful. In the same way, the stress and difficulties Crum was facing in finishing her dissertation were not signs that something was wrong. They were simply the cold, dark nights that come with taking on a personal Everest, an immense challenge that matters deeply to you. Just as a climber wouldn't complain about the hardships of scaling Everest, we shouldn't view the stressful aspects of our own meaningful pursuits as problems to be solved. This is a key insight about stress that goes against the common view. Most of the time, we see stress as something to be avoided or eliminated. If we're feeling stressed at work, in our relationships, or in pursuing our goals, we tend to interpret that as a sign that there's a problem that needs to be fixed. We think, if only my job or marriage or goals weren't so stressful, everything would be fine. But as the passage points out, this mindset can actually make things worse. When we approach life with the expectation that it should be largely stress-free, we end up feeling overwhelmed and hopeless whenever we encounter challenges or difficulties. We start to see stress as a personal failing, a sign that we're not strong or capable enough to handle what life is throwing at us. The alternative is to adopt Crum's perspective and view stress not as the enemy, but as an integral part of pursuing what's meaningful. Just as a mountain climber knows to expect hardship on the path to the summit, we need to understand that the most rewarding aspects of life will come with their share of struggle and discomfort. Finishing a degree, building a fulfilling career, nurturing close relationships. These aren't easy feats, and we shouldn't expect them to be. When we shift our mindset in this way, stress stops feeling like a sign that something is wrong. Instead, it becomes evidence that we're engaged in important work. The frustrations and difficulties we face aren't obstacles to be eliminated, but rather the cold, dark nights we must weather in order to achieve our most cherished goals. This doesn't mean that stress is easy or pleasant. There will still be times when we're exhausted, discouraged, or wondering if we have what it takes. But by maintaining a sense of context and purpose, we can approach those moments with greater resilience and even a sense of meaning. We may not enjoy every single step of the climb, but we can take solace in knowing that we're engaged in a worthy pursuit. Ultimately, the passage reminds us that the most meaningful parts of life, growth, achievement, connection, are inextricably bound to challenge and adversity. Stress is not something to be avoided, but rather a natural companion to the kind of ambitious, world-changing work that makes our lives rich and rewarding. By embracing stress as part of the journey, rather than fighting against it, we can cultivate a mindset that allows us to weather the storms and appreciate the rewards of the climb. In doing so, we may come to see that the very things that cause us stress are also what make our lives worth living.